just realized that I didn't start the recording. So let's do that now. Okay, yeah, now it's recording. So just going back a little. So to connect on an online project, click on Checkout Online Project, enter the URL of the server. URL is for Uniform Resource Locator. That's basically address. So enter that address and click on Select. The first time you do that, you would be prompted for your username and password. And once this is done, you will see listed here all the projects you have been assigned to. Well, I'm selecting that project right now, and well, actually I will slightly change the name here because I already checked out the project under a different name, so I don't want to interfere with. Oh well, it even detects that it has a slightly different name. So I'll just open the existing local copy in that case. And you could see that there was a dialog with very quickly showing, and that's basically updating a couple of things. And here you are with your MemoQ project now open for you. So it works exactly as when you create your own local project. You would see your translation documents in translations. And there is also a small indicator of your role in the document. T would stand for translator, R1 for reviewer 1, R2 for reviewer 2. And there, if there are any resources used by this project, you would see them here. Like, for example, you can see that here there is a sample translation memory, and it is hosted on the MemoQ server. That's a remote resource. Same thing for a term basis. And you can see that not only you have, that specific translation memory assigned to the project, but here you would see also listed your own translation memories. So if you want or have some local translation memories on your own, you can simply add them to this project. Well, here, sorry, it's removing them because it seems that those were not, proper TMs listed there. So if you have, sorry, your own TMs or term bases, you can add them here. Well, I just created two empty resources, an empty TM and an empty term base, and imported one document in this project. To open that, just double-click on the document. Oh, it didn't take the double-click. Oh, now it did. Okay. And there you would land on the MemoQ default screen. Okay, let me just reset the layout so that, okay, we are sure to display everything correctly. And here is our document. So that's how we start. You would see different entries there. You can see that it's a two-column view. You have your source text on the left. Your target text would be to write here on the right. And as you write your text here, you can see that it will update that translation preview pane at the bottom. Well, let's write something. Sorry, I don't know any Romanian, so let's assume that this is the translation I want to enter. And I just entered a translation and I pressed Control-Enter. What that does is that it not only confirms the translation is confirmed, the translation, but it also sends it to the translation memory. And now that it has been sent to the translation memory, you can see that I get a match out of my translation memory. MemoQ will compare that source text to whatever is in my translation memory and would fill me with results. Here what I get is a 101% match. That means that it's exactly the same text but also the same context. The previous and following segments are also exactly the same. And you also have some extra information here. You know when a match is selected, which project it comes from, or which client that was. Yeah, and whichever were the domain and subject. Okay, not sure whose microphone. Oh, it seems that. Okay, sorry for muting you, Dragos, but it seems that the background noise was coming from you. And you can see also the creation date and the name of the document in which that that sentence is the name of the document that sentence is coming from. And you can see right now the last usage date and the name of the translation memory it comes from. In case you have several translation memories, that way you can see which one that that match comes from. And when you have text here, well, let's modify slightly the text. I'm just removing the exclamation mark here in my original text. I'm doing that so that we can see now the difference. You can see that, well, there are not many differences, but this is my source text, and this is what I have in my translation memory, the source text and the target text. You can see the exclamation mark here, which is in translation memory, and where I don't have that in my document anymore. And that's why now it's only 98% match. And you can see a small indicators there. It tells you that there are fewer or more spaces, and punctuation is different. So there are quick indicators when you have something like that, because it looks very much like the same text, and actually it's really very much the same. Those are just quick indicators, like here if you have differences in bold formatting or stuff like that, you would see them quite easily here. Something also that you had, okay, let's enter that now. And something also that you had here was a warning, this orange lightning sign. Whenever you have that, that means that you will need to double click here to see what's wrong. This is the quality assurance warnings kicking in. When the project has been created, there are several quality assurance settings which were chosen. Like, do I check my terminology database and tell about mismatches? Do I check for consistency? Do I check for extra trailing spaces or stuff like that? And here you can see that I have a check about capitalization, and it tells me that the first letters of my translated sentence are not capitalized the same way as source text. Oh yeah, okay. So I don't want to ignore that one. I could have ignored the warning by checking that, but of course, as the source starts with a capital, let's do that in a target. And you see now that I don't have any complaint from MemoQ anymore. So, well, I don't know anything about the target language right now, so that that doesn't mean anything. But at least from a purely quality assurance point of view, that's a valid translation. Something else also that you can do as you start translating is enter terms in your database. Here I'm just copying source text into target field because I didn't have anything here and didn't want to type that garbage again. Let's say that this composite resin systems is something you want to enter in your term base. And okay, let's say that, well, I'm selecting the same thing on the target side. So you're selecting in your source text and your target text the equivalent term. And then you can do two things. Either you quick add the thing to a term base, that's Control Q for quick, and you can see that's quickly added to a term base, so it's entered as is without any other dialogue or anything. And then you have your translation. Or let's say that I want patient. I want also to enter patient in my term base. I could also press Control E And doing that, you see that I have a more elaborate dialog available. So I just unfolded the different options there. And here is what will match in my source language. So patient, could anyone maybe fill me with a synonym for patient? Not too familiar with the medical terminology.
Client.
Yeah, for example, yeah, let's say client. Idea. I want also to MemoQ to be able to recognize whenever it finds either patient or patients with an S. So I could simply add another entry here. And here you could see that whenever I have patient, client, or patients, that would display the term-based entry patient. Or what I can do here, and that's particularly interesting for heavily inflected languages, is use the wildcard. So I could, for example, use the star, just as you would in when searching something in Word, for example. You would, in the search box, use the star here, and that would match for anything starting with patient. And that could be patients or, well, patientees doesn't exist, but it could be anything really. Or I could use the pipe character here that you see. That's the one I get on my keyboard with Control Alt and 6. Not sure on which key it is on your keyboard, but that's that vertical bar which is called a pipe. And that's used as a separator. And when I'm using that here, MemoQ would match either patient or patients. So that's for, very limited set of alternatives. That could also be something interesting. In that case, I will even remove the previous one. And then there are different things that you can do. You can also use prefix matching. By default, it's set to a 50% minimum. That means that if you have at least 50% of the string matching something in the source text, it will display this entry. For example, by default, client would also be displayed as a match, as a partial match for clientele, for example, if that was in our source text, because that remaining part is actually shorter. So what I just showed you with the asterisk is usually much better when you have either heavily inflected forms or lots of different alternatives. For partial matching, such as this is okay. That's the default. If you want, you can set prefix matching to yes or no. Yes would mean that we allow anything starting with client to be matched. No would mean that we get a match only if that's client and nothing else. So even clients wouldn't match if we set it to no. And then here that's for case sensitivity. I would recommend that either you set always to no, or if you set to permissive, just enter your entries in lowercase. Permissive would get a match for either lowercase or starting with an uppercase or all uppercase, provided the entry is in lowercase. Or if it's already in uppercase, that would match only if it's also uppercase in the text. You can see that if you want, you can use also the usage, grammar, and definition fields. They are not really useful. Most of the time, people would just select terms and hit Control-Q, and that's it. Even if you have to create many entries, that's actually much simpler than fiddling through the term-based entry. One of the things, though, which is important here is the forbidden term. forbidden term would be more in the target field usually, and here let's say that we have also client in our target field, but we say that this client is a forbidden term. Okay, let's click on OK. Now see, when we come back to this sentence, you can see, of course, the two matches that we get. So it knows that composite resin systems should be translated that way, patient should be translated that way, but patients should never be translated as client. Here, okay, where was it? If I try to enter client here instead of patient, you can see that I get a warning. And MemoQ is, well, first telling me that there is no translated equivalent for patient, and that client is a forbidden term, so that shouldn't be used. So here you can see that we already have a few things filling up on the right-hand side in the translation results. One of the things also which is interesting is the concordance search. You will find that also in other tools. You can select something here, let's say a term, and press Ctrl K, and then that would display, well, of course we have only one entry in a translation memory, because that it's a translation memory with pretty much empty data right now, or nearly. So we don't have many matches, but of course you would see them all listed, and you would see all the entries which contain that term resin here. So in case you're wondering how the others could have translated resin, you would see that listed here. Okay, what else is there? I think, I don't remember whether we have auto-concordancing, which is already existing in MemoQ 4.5. Let me figure out, I guess. Okay, I guess not. Okay, well, this one, the purple entry, you can forget. That's really just about, that's what we call auto-assemble, and it's just copying the source text and replacing whatever it can find in your translation memories and term-based entries with translated results. That's more often than not useful only for for short entries, like you have a product number and a reference or something like that. Then you can use that. Okay, I'm just deleting that entry here. So here is how you would go with the. Oh, did I show you? Yeah, I think I showed you that the translation would appear here in a translation preview, and you can navigate either in your text here or at the bottom in the translation preview, and that works both ways. That means that, oh, you see something here, you click on that segment, that will jump to that corresponding part in the preview. And the other way around is true too. You see that figure, for example, say, okay, I want to translate that title. You click once on the title, and here it jumps to that corresponding section in the translation document. And now you want to filter on something. Let's say that the occlusion, for example, is something you want to filter on. You say, I want to see in my document all the segments that contain that, because that's a term you want to make sure you translate it consistently. So that's, well, of course you could have that entered to your term base, but you can also filter for things. So you could either copy and paste that in the source text here, source text filtering, or you select a term and press Ctrl-Shift-F. Well, there is only one segment containing that, so maybe it's not the best. Well, I guess with tooth we'd have several at least. Yeah, okay, much better. And here you can see that all those segments here contain at least once the word tooth. You can see that tooth structure, here tooth, and so on. So that's something which is cumulative. So once you have entered tooth, the display is filtered. If you want, you can go further than that and say, okay, I want to see all the entries that contain tooth and that have, at least in my target text, once the allow, for example. Why? Because that's one of the things I see. And here you can see that's even further filtered. And for example, you can double check translations also that way. Of course, you can make that case sensitive if you want to. You can also filter your display depending on segment status. By default, well, you would have everything displayed there. But you say, okay, well, now I have confirmed a couple of things. Let's show me only whatever is not confirmed or not proofread. And then MemoQ will filter out from the display everything which was confirmed or proofread. Okay, canceling the filter here. So you can see that again. So, and that's how you see that what you see here in your translation environment is really a flexible view, because, for example, here you can sort things. Okay, let me sort by alphabetical order, for example. That can be useful because, of course, if you have a list of numbers or stuff like that, but you can see that this way, especially for reviewing, you can see that he has done this, he has done that, he has something. Maybe you want to use a consistent stylistic entry for that. In which case, you would see that easily in a alphabetically sorted view. So that's one of the quick ways, to ensure style consistency, and also to deal with stuff like if you have lots of segments with numbers, for example, from a table. Also a quick way to do that. Here I'm sorting by alphabetical order, but of course you can have reverse alphabetical order, and that's for source text, for target text. Same thing for the length, source and target. Match rate, so that's pre-translated match rate. So if the text is pre-translated, you can sort it by match rate. Yeah? Hello? Oh, okay. I think it's just right. And sorry for the interruption. Match rate, and then we have also the possibility to filter by frequency. Frequency, that means frequency of segments, the most frequent or the less frequent they are. Let's start with higher first, which is usually what people do when they use that. If you sort with frequency higher first, you would see in your document the most frequent segments. Well, as this is not really a repetitive text, we don't have duplicates in there, but if there were a couple of duplicates, you would see them listed first. And of course, the more they are repeated, the more you would see listed at the top. Could be an option, for example, for some repetitive text, so that you deal with the heavily repetitive stuff first and then concentrate on the rest afterwards. Okay, just reverting to normal order. So this is just your way of looking at the text. There is no impact whatsoever on what you export, once translation is done. Even if you work in an alphabetical order or in a filtered view for some reason, that won't affect how you can export a document. Well, should you want to export, because here we are working on an online project, so even a single translated segment here would show up for the others. One of the advantages of those online documents in online projects on the MemoQ server is that you can have several people opening that at the same time. So here, well, I have Dragos connected as a translator, but I could very well also have a reviewer opening that same document at the same time and maybe advising me, having a quick look at what I'm currently doing, leaving a couple of comments on style or stuff like that, maybe slightly correcting a few entries. That's, I would say, really a great way of working by sharing your document. Okay. What else? By status, well, you have a couple of common filters here, which are usually the most used. So here, for example, show me only everything which is confirmed and proofread, and do not show the rest, for example, also. It's another one, and then you would see that here. Okay, canceling the filter. And then you can see, for example, filter on errors, repetitions, locked rows or not locked. Once you're a bit more experienced with MemoQ, what you can do is also filter by status yourself and say, okay, for example, I don't want to see the confirmed rows. Please show me only the fuzzy matches and those segments which were edited and those which were not started. Not started are the gray ones here with nothing, which have never been touched at all. Click on OK, and then you would see that. Oh, yeah, okay, we have auto-concordancing, great. This kind of orange match, also sometimes called golden match, is auto-concordancing. What MemoQ does is that it will manually try to find in your reference material the frequent terms and expressions that appear. And here it identifies that it knows that simplifying direct composite restorations is something which is used or has been used several times in my translation memories and term bases. Well, and you even can show me the translated result here. Well, that's something which is the equivalent of selecting that and pressing Ctrl K to show the, okay, sorry, just adjusting things. And because, well, we have two entries here, it seems that the default was set a bit low. So we have two entries in our translation memory with that. And MemoQ then warns you, okay, that's frequent term or expression. That's usually great for sub-segment leveraging. So like when you have, like for example, let's say that amalgam restoration is something which is used frequently, you would see that displayed, but maybe it's just because another translator has translated that frequently, or at least 3 or 4 times in another document. That could be displayed automatically. So that's also a great way to identify potential candidates for adding to a term base, because that way, okay, see that, okay, maybe it's worth adding to a term base. Really, that's something I can't highlight enough, I'd say. When you're working with other translators on a project, it's so easy to add new entries to your term base. Simply select source text, target text, and hit Control Q, that it simplifies the life really for everyone, because as you translate, you don't have to think about, well, how should I translate that, because you will know how that should be translated in that project. You have also the possibility to have on a MemoQ server what we call moderated term bases. Here I just added a term and, well, an expression actually, and it was immediately displayed in the translation results. In a moderated term base, you might submit that, and that won't be displayed instantly. You need to have a terminologist review that and accept, confirm the translation, and once it has been approved, that way it will be used in the translation result. So depending on the kind of term base, I guess that you will have a notification of the type of term base you'll be using, but depending on that, you might see immediately your translated entries or not immediately. I think we covered already a couple of things. Oh, of course, as you can see, bold, italics, underlined, are all dealt with on a WYSIWYG basis, so you don't have to use tags as you would in other tools to mark that that kind of formatting. That's valid for most document formats. Something also which is important, and I think we had a couple of segments containing tags. I could filter on tags here for, yeah, there is one. Okay, great. Actually, that's a good example here. Well, I'm just copying, of course, the source text, but typically what you would do is, as you enter your translation, okay, sorry, remote selection is not always. Oh, okay, well, for example, this is my translation, and then you want to, of course, also have the same text afterwards, and you see that there is a tag here. This type of tag that you will see from time to time. There are others that would look slightly different, that would look, like something between lower than and greater than. Those two type of tags mark usually formatted content. In that case here, just before the www something, that's the actual HTML link which is contained in that tag. So that's why it needs to be there also in your translation. Of course, you can move it around any place you want. Typically, you would normally enter your translation like that, and to make sure you have that at the same place, just go wherever you want to insert it and press. Well, F8 would be for that type of tag. The other ones would be with F9. But usually you would have that highlighted for the inline tags. Here that's an uninterpreted format tag, that one. Control Enter, and how come that we get a warning? Oh, numbers. Yeah, because I had numbers in my source text, and see, as I didn't enter the numbers in my target text, I get a match. Well, that one is done on purpose. Let's say I want to ignore that warning, and you can see that it turned to a different color. So at least there was a warning, but you said, okay, well, still that's the translation I want to use. It might happen very often that you have entries in your term base, and for some reason, for linguistic reason, you don't want to use that in your translation. Let's say that you have many repetitions of the same word in your source text, like dentist, Mr. something dentist, and then in your next sentence that you chose to translate, you would have the same thing in your source text, which is frequent in English. Actually, they like repetitions a lot. But maybe in your target language, you might want to refer to that person as he or it, if it's an object or something, rather than repeat that name or a title or whatever again. So it might be completely legit to ignore warnings at some stage. Warnings are for when you do things that don't impact the export of the document. If for some reason I choose not to insert a tag, here I just choose to enter my translation but without entering that. And you can see that there are different things. Well, there is still my warning about numbers, but this one is ignored. That's okay. And you can see a red exclamation mark. So this is important because this is an error. And you see that there are too few tags in the target segment. And that one you can't ignore because an error would block you from exporting the file. That's actually structural content which is there. So that's, well, in this case, that's an HTML link. It's not, that vital to the document, but it could have been like a picture, or it could have been, some binary data which is important for the document. So you should always have your tags. If for some reason you see that they are meaningless, like maybe they were surrounding some kind of text which is as in superscript in your source text, and you don't need that in your target translation, you can just insert all the tags at the end of your sentence, just so that you have them, because that binary payload needs to be there in your translation anyway. Do you have questions so far on what we've seen?
What happens with footnotes?
Sorry? Could you repeat,
What
Maria?
happens?
I could hear you, but very badly.
Okay. What happens with footnotes in the source text?
If you have footnotes, you should see them normally in your document there. Well, I mean, we don't have any footnotes here, so it's a bit difficult to show you. But what happens usually in documents is that you would have your text to translate, and then you would have like a number or something, or a reference, and then something else. And there you would see there would be usually a tag here. Well, let's just mark with that, because and you would see a tag here, your footnote, and another tag. That's either that, or it's completely separated as another entry in another segment. It depends on the original format of the document. In docx files, for example, you could see them in a separate segment. In PowerPoint files, they would rather be in a separate. They would rather be mixed with the text. It depends really on the file format, the original file format. But they would appear in MemoQ, so there is no worry to have about footnotes there. But you can't insert your own footnotes, for example, if they were not in the source text, if that's what you meant.
No. I just meant the source.
Okay. So should you need to, to do that kind of stuff like adding your own footnotes, then that would need to be done after translation in a translated file. Something that I would recommend that you use, because sometimes people overlook that, that's the comment function. You can see this bubble here. You can double click on that and leave a comment. Or you can also press Ctrl M and leave a comment. Well, in the type of project that I have chosen here, we can't join and split sentences, but for example, you can leave a comment here so that people can easily see that afterwards. And you can see that normally join and split are allowed in online project with desktop documents, not in online project with server documents. This one is an online project with server documents, so you wouldn't be able to join to merge those two entries there. Do we have other questions so far on the editor? Oh, I see that, sorry, Ekaterina had a couple of, what about compatibility with Trados, SDLX, and other TM tools? Well, for the TM part, we do support TMX, just as, pretty much every other CAD tool around. So you could just, for example, if you have a Trados TM, import that into a MemoQ TM. That's something which would be set up for you normally. So Mr. Mukanu would set up the project, and you would have the TMs and everything already set up. So normally you wouldn't need to do much. But if you're on your side want to import or export to TMX, you can do so. Same thing for the term basis, which can be imported and exported to CSV. And for translation documents, there is something which is extremely interesting, especially if you want to work with, let's say, another colleague using another tool. You can export your documents to different bilingual formats. You have, of course, MemoQ bilingual document, but that one is in case he is using already MemoQ. But you have Trados compatible bilingual doc. That one was, if you're using that for Exchange, I would recommend that you check the simple formatting option. This is the unclean, Trados unclean format that some people were referring to. So you can use that if you're, the other person is using, for example, Trados Workbench or WordFast or whatever tool uses that Trados tagged format, with the source text hidden, those TW4 win or TW4 mark styles in the document. So you can use that. You can also export to XLIF, which is great with it. The other person is using, for example, SDLX. I'm not sure if they do support XLIF. I know that, of course, Studio does. Tag Editor does too. There are a couple of other tools there that do support XLIF just fine. This is actually the one I would recommend if your target person is using a CAT tool that does support XLIF. And you can even export your projects to people not using any CAT tool at all with that 2-column RTF table. So I'm not sure if you have used that one so far. Let's export that to, let's say, the desktop here. And let's open it again. Should be there. No, it's there. And this is what you would get here. You would get the actual content of the document. You can see that some parts were already translated. As we also enter the comment at some stage, yeah, see for example that one. You can see the comments which were done, and there you can have the person just enter a translation or correct. That's especially great, for example, when you want to have, let's say, well, this is medical text about, dental stuff. So we could very well have that checked by a dentist, who's not familiar with any CAT tools or anything. Just, there's source text, target text. That way you can, read through stuff, correct stuff, enter his own comments, and you can re-import that in MemoQ. And that's the point here, being able to re-import stuff. So everything you export as bilingual, you will be able to re-import with import update bilingual. That is for, well, here this is an online project, so that's only for project manager to do. But in your own local project, that would be enabled. So in your own local project, you can do that. In an online project here, that needs to be done by the project manager on the server and not in a checked out copy. But that's how you would do. And for reusing existing material, you can, of course, create alignments. You can add existing bilingual documents. Let's say you have previous tag editor TTX files or SDLXLIF files you want to reuse. You can just add them to a LiveDocs corpus, and they would give you matches instantly. So whatever you add to a LiveDocs corpus is used just as a translation memory. You would get results from that. Does that cover your questions about support for other tools? I'd say that with the different bilingual export and re-import options we have, we're pretty much compatible with well, everything or almost everything around. And for transit, in case you also have transit packages to translate, you can directly translate them. You can import a transit project in MemoQ. Then you would select your transit package, and that would generate back that other format that is expected for transit packages. Sorry, let me unmute you, Dragos, in case you have also something to ask, because you were muted because there was some background noise at some stage. But in case you have your own questions. Oh, I can hear something, but that's very distant. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
That's very low. I don't know for the others.
Okay, now.
What did we do here? Did we sort or filter? Oh, that was filtered.
Okay.
Yeah. What is? I can just barely hear you. Don't know about the others. I hear someone kind of grappling with his microphone, but except for that, I can't hear you. Oh, that's much better. Thank you, whoever that was. I'm sorry, Dragos. If you're speaking right now, I can't hear you. Oh, that's better. Okay. Does any of you have other questions so far? Because here basically working on a MemoQ project, which is an online project, sets up everything for you. So you don't have to worry about which translation memories to use, which databases to use. Of course, you can also add your own. Okay, that was you, Daniel. Sorry, that kind of loud background noise. And you can add your own resources. That's what I meant here. That's why I wanted to show you the translation memories and term basis part. If you have your own term basis, like let's say you're given an online project like this, but maybe you have also some other, like for example in that case, medical reference material that was translated before, you can add other term bases, translation memories. There is no limit on the number of TMs you can use. And same thing for LiveDocs Corpora. For delivery, yeah, sorry about that. Delivery of the translation. Okay, let's just copy everything over and confirm everything so that, and let's pretend that we have finished translation of that document.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
I don't know if you have noticed, but in the chat room, Dragos was asking how can we perform a spell check before delivering the document.
Thank you for thank you for bringing me on that. I didn't see. Okay, so let me show you for delivery, and then I'll go back to spell check and QA. Well, this document is now fully translated. What you can do is click on Deliver Return, knowing that as we're working on an online project with server documents here, even if you don't click on Deliver, the translation is there because you're actually working on the server itself. What you see there is basically just the necessary structure for you to work on that online project, but everything we do there is done on the MemoQ server. But if you want to kind of officially say, okay, transition is done, I'm over, I've spell checked, I've run the QA or everything, and I'm done with that. So you click on deliver, and that's it. That will just move the document and say, okay, delivery is done, that's official. Okay, spell check. Well, as you can see here, there's a lot of red highlight. And that's actually the spell checker kicking in. What it does, there is first an online spell checker, real-time spell checker, which as you type will highlight the spelling mistakes. We do have a lot here because we're supposed to translate from English into Romanian. And that's why we have, so many entries here listed. Obviously, as it's not Romanian, the Romanian dictionary is just complaining there. What you need to set up to have this online spell checker working, you go to Tools, Options, and there, Spell Settings. And then you would select your target language. And see, well, for Romanian here, we are using unspell. That's the one you need to have a real-time spell checker. If you use the word spell checker, you won't have the real-time warnings, just the traditional spell checker. And then you can select your dictionaries. When you first select a language, you won't have anything there displayed. You need to click on look for more dictionaries online and click on check. And there you would see listed what the different dictionaries for your target language are. So just select either one or select a pack or whatever you want. Well, I guess that only this one was selected here, and it will add it and use it as a spell checker dictionary for your own language. And once this is done, you will see the real spell checker warning you in real time about spelling mistakes there. So that's exactly as for QA. So when you're using something which is not according to the QA rules, as you confirm a segment, you're already warned about what's wrong. But let's say that for some reason you want to continue doing things and prefer to spell check and run the QA afterwards. You can also do so here. I think it's in translation. Yeah, translation, spelling. And then you can manually run also spell checker. Well, it's okay, I'll skip that one, I'll also skip that one, and so on. So you have all the traditional options you would see in a spell checker, with the different options. If you want to use the word spell checker, you can also do so here. And ignore list. Well, ignore list is the fancy name we chose for spell checker dictionary. So if you want to create your own spell checker dictionary, oops. You can do so. And yeah, and that way when you click on add, let's say that you want to add dentistry to that dictionary, now you can add it. And let's click on close. So that's for the manual spell checking, of course, and that would go through all the document. While here we have too many spelling mistakes to consider going through them using the the traditional spell checker. But that's how you would proceed. And for running the QA, you can do so at any time from operations run QA. And there you can run a QA check. So, and when you do so, that uses your quality assurance settings, which are created here. Well, this one was created for you because that's the one which is used on the server. But if you had your own QA settings, I'm just creating one here, and you can use that, for example. Okay, say, okay, well, yeah, I want to check for consistency. This is the direction of the check. Source to target, make sure that the same source text is translated the same way in the target. Well, that's just a warning. Remember, sorry, this anything that doesn't comply with the QA settings would just issue warnings. Of course, sometimes it makes sense to have like different translations for the same source text. It's just a warning about consistency. You can reverse the order and check that the same target text corresponds to the same source text, or both ways if you want to, if you select bidirectional. And we can even take formatting or case into account or not. So these are the default checks for consistency, terminology, usage of forbidden terms. You can even include also formatting, check for bold, italics, underline, make sure that they are also used in the target segment. Well, length restrictions would be rather seldom. you have checks on numbers. Those ones I would recommend that you uncheck those two here, strict interpretation on source side and target side. Verifying that the numbers are properly formatted and that the quantities match is usually largely enough. You can have checks on punctuations. You can see that not all of them are enabled. Spaces, like trailing spaces or stuff like that. Well, you have lots of different checks, so I let you go through them, individually, because if we do cover them right now, that would be really extremely long. But you can use your own QA checks. And let's say, for example, you want to check only for terminology and nothing else. Okay, you don't care about numbers. You don't want to check punctuation or anything. Well, I would still advise you to leave the inline tags ones, but you uncheck everything except terminology, for example. And you know that when you're using my own QA setting, MemoQ would complain only about terminology and nothing else. One of the reasons you might want to select that is that when you run a QA check, you can run it on a document. If the document is open on the open document, or even on the selection on a couple of segments if you want to, on the whole project. But you can also run a QA check on the translation memory. And that one is extremely interesting actually, because that way, if you're checking only on terminology and check a previous TM, for example, MemoQ will show you that resolve errors and warnings window, and you will know in that translation memory what are the different entries, for example, that used old terminology. Maybe you have changed a couple of things in your glossary and want to make sure that your TM complies with that now. But more often than not, you would just select selected document and run the QA check, and you click on OK, and that will run the QA check. Remember, we only did one on terminology here, and okay, source term patient is missing from target. Yeah, okay, that's the one I wanted. And you can confirm that. So there are lots you can correct like that, or you can double click on an entry here, and that would open the corresponding document and open the corresponding segment. So you can manually fix that here if you want, rather than in that view here. So that's the manual QA check. But I would say that if you did your job correctly and made sure all warnings were attended to, you have that done in real time, and you won't need extra time done on QA. Okay, let's have a look at the other questions from Aliona. Is it possible to generate TMs and term basis files based on previously translated documents? Yes. I would recommend that you use the live docs corpus for that. Well, we don't have any right now, so let's create. That's a local one we are creating here, even though we're, working on an online project. So typically, normally that's something that would have been done. But let's say we are creating a local corpus here, and we'll add an alignment pair, and you would add your old source document, your old target document, and they would be aligned. That would create automatically a bilingual document out of which you would get matches. Okay, I have a file in .doc or .xls format. I can open it directly in MemoQ, or do I need to convert it somehow first? No, doc, XLS. There are lots of file formats supported by MemoQ. Well, and here still that's MemoQ 4.5. Well, I can't add, documents to that specific project because this is an online project. But in your own local project, just use add document to add a document using the default settings. Add document as would add the document and display the advanced import settings, like for example in a Word document, do you want to import table of contents or not? Do you want to ignore this or that style? Or in an Excel document, which cells you want to include in your import, or which ones do you want to exclude. Like, for example, you have the possibility for an Excel document to simply select like a column and say, okay, please import that. That's my content I want to translate. I don't care about the rest, and it won't import the rest. Can PowerPoint files be translated with MemoQ? Yes. You can translate all Office formats, and for all Office formats, HTML and XML, you would have this real-time preview here. So if you're translating your PowerPoint, for example, you would see the slides in the translation preview, and you would see how it translates, as you go. There are lots of other file formats supported, and well, here again, that's MemoQ 4.5. MemoQ 5.0 would even deal with more file formats. To put it simply, there is no content whatsoever yet that I haven't been able to import in MemoQ for translation. So unless you come up, with some binary file format out of nowhere, any of the formats that you will most likely see for your translations, you can import in MemoQ. You can import directly also PDF files, especially useful for alignment. But for translation, I just add a note here. When you're adding a PDF file to MemoQ, MemoQ just extracts the text. We don't retain the layout. That's done on purpose. So you can still translate and export that. That would be just a text entry. But if you want to retain a layout on a PDF, you need to convert it to some editable format like doc or docx first, or RTF, for example, before importing that in MemoQ. Actually, one thing about that PDF format, which is unfortunately one of the frequent submitted file formats, translating a PDF file is exactly like handing a hamburger to someone and asking you to turn that back into a cow. That's exactly what it is. That's a file format which has been meant not to be tampered with, and that means also editing the text inside. So the purpose of PDF is that it's displayed the same way on all platforms, and for that, that's a great success. But that was a format meant for printing business, not for translation. When you have the possibility, always ask for the source files, the ones which were used to generate the PDF. Do you have other questions? Because I think we covered quite a lot already. Nope. Okay, I don't see any other question coming up. So, well, this meeting has been recorded anyway, so should you need to see it later on for your convenience, Mr. Meccano will have that available. So I wish you all a good day, and maybe we preserve formatting in every document we import. Every. That's always important. PDF, we just extract the text, yes. That's the only exception. But all other formats, like InDesign, stuff like that. So all the rest, of course, formatting is always preserved. But that's what CAD tools do. I mean, you just basically, extract the text and preserve formatting. That's the point. Okay. Anyone wants to add anything before we close the meeting, maybe? Okay, so have a good day, everyone, and well, don't hesitate to submit your feedback. Whether you have issues or need advice or anything to support@kitray.com. We're also here to help you with MemoQ. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Bye.